the comfort zone is tricky because we think we're happier when we're in a comfort zone. It looks good on paper, but it's killing the soul. We're not meant to just settle, feel comfortable, and bypass our soul callings. And even when things are messy and chaotic, when you are following that, like the freedom brings you so much joy. So it's already worth it. From the moment we decide, it's already worth it.
Welcome to And Then I Did This. Prepare to be inspired as we celebrate the unique journeys of individuals who've had the courage to break free and live life on their own terms. Their lives prove that you truly can be free to live your best and most authentic life. Let's get to it. Hello and welcome to the show. Today I have a special guest, a very special guest, Julie Mullins. Julie is an intuitive energetic healer, a spiritual teacher, and a published author. She uses her incredible intuition, her healing techniques, and manifestation tools to empower individuals to achieve greater levels of success in all areas of their life. Julie was born in Brazil and lived in Los Angeles for a long time, like over 14 years. And she is now exploring the world, living a nomadic life. And you're currently in Brazil. So welcome to the show, Julie.
Thank you, Lou Ray. It's an honor being here. I love you.
Oh, love you too. I'm so excited to get into your story because you have such an interesting path that has led you to where you are. So share where you started. You started in Brazil and then embarked out from there. So walk through your journey a little bit.
All right. I would be so happy to share. So I was born and raised in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. And I moved to Los Angeles to continue to pursue acting. I was doing modeling in Brazil. I was doing plays, like theater, commercials, soap opera. And I moved to Los Angeles to continue to pursue that. And living in Los Angeles, I got into voiceover and did voiceover for many years there. But that is the success part of it. We also have the behind the scenes where I had to work like 4 jobs to actually maintain myself in Los Angeles, like bartending, even Uber. I drove a little bit. I worked at Macy's selling perfume. So there were a lot of things along the journey. And it also took me a few years to start doing any type of acting in the voiceover because the beginning was really about just surviving there. So the journey was long.
Yes.
The journey was long.
And continue on with how you got on the path of healing and what you're doing now, your intuition and intuitive skills.
Right. So in this whole crazy thing of trying to survive in LA, trying to pursue acting and still feeling this disconnection from my soul and my happiness, I started to dive deeper into self-development books, in meditation. I have always been interested in afterlife. I've been reading books about past lives since I'm a teenager. But when I was bartending in Los Angeles and I would just go home feeling so drained emotionally, physically, I had no choice but to start seeking for something, like for meaning, right? I couldn't really connect to my happiness and my soul, like I mentioned. And there was a point where in 2015, I decided to go to India on a spiritual retreat. And a lot of clarity came from that retreat and how disconnected I was actually living from my actual path. But I came back to LA, continued to pursue acting, but I was also looking at other things. And then I met my mentor, who I started to take classes from. And then things started to make sense about how I was creating the obstacles in my life and how I could get myself from feeling fear, frustration, and that kind of disconnection from my soul, and live a life using my intuition and actually consciously creating my life. So things started to shift from that spot.
So good. So good. So your journey now, like talk a little bit about what you're doing now, because you do such interesting things. And I've honestly actually experienced some of your healing work and had experiences with sessions with you, which, as I shared with you, you're the most pure, connected to source, intuitive that I've ever met in my entire life. So share a little bit about that part of yourself. And what
That's
you're
such
doing.
a beautiful compliment. And we know what we see in others is a reflection of ourselves. So that makes me so happy to hear, so honored to hear. So I basically use my intuition to get to the root cause of whatever obstacles someone is experiencing in their life. And I use tools to reprogram the subconscious mind and universal laws. So we are basically working with the mind, the spirit realm, the energetic realm, everything to connect someone to their purpose and understand how the conflicts are actually a stepping stone to what they want to create. So with this mentor, I did a healer training. I started developing my intuition and started to live a life guided by my intuition. And this is where everything changed for me, because I was no longer wanting to do things to fit in, to belong, and because everybody else was doing. And I was truly asking myself, what do I feel is the next step for me, which then allowed me to take massive leaps in my life, like leaving Los Angeles, packing all my things, moving to Bali on a one-way ticket and staying there for 4 months.
Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah. And it's all for listening to, those intuitive insights and trusting myself versus the external world and what everybody else was doing. So
yeah, absolutely. And I know I have shared with you that something I learned from you in one of the courses that I took through what your training, the whisper versus us ignoring the whisper and it getting so loud that we have no other choice but to listen. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that as far as being true to ourselves.
Yes, 100%. We all have those insights. We all listen. We have the whispers from our soul saying, go this way, take this action, wrap up this chapter. But sometimes we are so committed to the comfort zone, or we are so afraid of the unknown, or we're so stuck in the limiting story that it has to be a certain way that we don't listen to the whispers. So we basically have 2 ways that we can grow, evolve, and be on our path. One is through love, and one is through pain and heartbreaks. Both have medicine, right? The universe gives us whispers, guiding along the way, saying, go this way. And sometimes we don't listen. So the whispers, they get louder so that we have no choice but to listen, because that is our soul calling. And that's when the changes are a bit more dramatic, right? But we all have the whispers. So if you are in a situation that you are feeling, wow, this is definitely comfortable, it feels good on paper, but there's something off in my heart, there's something missing, I feel like I'm being called to do something else, that's when you truly listen to your intuition and you act, because that is where your happiness and fulfillment are. So
yes, makes so much sense. I mean, experienced it firsthand. Yes. As I'm sure other people listening have also experienced it, the times that we did listen and then the times that we didn't. And some catastrophic thing happened because we were meant to course correct and we didn't listen to the whispers.
Yes, and we're at home manifesting, asking for all these wonderful things. But then when the signs are showing, we're like, oh, I see nothing. I see nothing. I'm going to stay right here.
Oh, so talk a little bit about how you have, I guess, quieted the self-talk of doubt, uncertainty as you bought the one-way ticket to Bali, thinking, you're not even sure how long you were going to stay. Talk a little bit about that and how your experience and what are some tips you would give people.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That was the wildest action that I took into the unknown, fully trusting the intuition. Mm-hmm. And I did it basically using the tools that we use to connect to the intuition to silence the emotions, because all our fears, self-doubt, limiting beliefs, they will come with emotion, right? They will come with a lot of restriction, emotions. And when we basically silence the mind, get into a meditation, slowing our breath, connecting to source energy, grounding our energy into earth, opening our hearts, and we get into this neutral space, right? Yes. That's when we can listen to the intuition. And also a great tool that I use for this is neutralizing the outcomes. So I write down positives. If it works out, I write down positives. If it doesn't, so that I'm neutral about the answer. Because let's say I'm feeling to go to Indonesia, but I'm having all these fears. Then I want to neutralize going, because if I'm too attached to going, I might just manipulate the answer. So first I get neutral. Yeah. First I get neutral about going or not. And I make the decision that I am choosing to take the action into what is in my highest good. And then I surrender in that moment, quiet the thoughts, quiet the emotions, and just listen to the intuition. Right. And that's what I did. I was actually in a live with a friend of mine, Nikki, and we were doing like an intuition exercise. And then I closed my eyes and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ask now. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to ask now. I had the courage. It is in my highest good to go to Bali. And the moment that I repeated that to myself, I just heard an airplane cross like right on top.
No way.
And I got chills. I'm like, this is like a huge confirmation. It's happening. And I didn't have the details. I didn't know how things were going to unfold. But in that moment, I was like, the decision is done.
Yeah,
it is in my highest good. It's going to happen. And then things started to kind of unfold and work out.
So good.
So, yeah.
So good. Another thing that's coming up for me right now, which I think we're supposed to touch on this, one of the other experiences I had with you was around a relationship to money. And just because I think that's such a concern for people if they're thinking, oh, if I step out of what I'm currently doing, what if it doesn't work out? What if? And all of those fears, and our connection with loving ourselves and having faith and knowing that abundance and money will follow. That would be interesting to hear your perspective on.
That's such a great question. So one thing is certain, we are going to fail many times. So instead of looking for the certainty and security that the money will always be there, how about we connect to every experience, however they unfold, is for my highest good? This already releases the fear, right? Because abundance is present in so many forms. So let's say someone does decide to take a leap of faith and they get short on money, which has happened to me many times in my life. Well, that's okay. That's okay, because you are going to be supported through that. Either you're going to have like another job to support you, like an opportunity will be aligned for you. So it's not so much of how can I make sure that I succeed and have the safety, but knowing that even if you go through the failures, that is still divine. That is still teaching. That's a beautiful stepping stone to the life that you're creating. So being okay with failure and seeing failure as a part of success would be my number one tip to clear that fear. It's not about the security that it will be there, but knowing that you will be supported however it looks like.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. Because sometimes we do need to fail to connect more to our authenticity, because right now we learn so much. Oh, how do we make money? How do we create this? And maybe you're creating something that wasn't so aligned with your true self, and failing in that will be the key to unlock your truth. So seeing through that perspective, right? And of course, along the journey, healing the relationship to money, seeing abundance everywhere, connecting to our self-worth. There are many components to make sure financial is flowing, but losing the fear, because failure is part of it.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. It's that face everything and run, or, face everything and rise, false evidence appearing real, or believing that it will work out. That's an attitude of gratitude and believing that all my needs are met. That is definitely something I know that that's worked for me. And I know I've heard you say those similar words in what you share.
Yes, it's so important. Connecting also to our unconditional worthiness is key to feeling inner peace. And it has been such like a powerful tool that I have integrated in my energy. I don't depend of anything working a certain way for me to feel valuable or feel worthy or feel good about my life. That's like, it comes unconditionally, whether things are great or appearing a little chaotic. I know there's medicine in both, right? And there's wisdom and compassion and everything just blooming regardless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So staying the course with, because you shared a little bit about, there were times where, money may have been there, may have not been there, and staying true to what you are meant to be doing, because you absolutely are in your element doing what you are doing. What are some of the things that you did touch on it a bit, but what tips and advice would you have for people as they're stepping out or thinking about stepping out to stay the course and not just give up the first discomfort or uncomfortable thing that happens?
Yes. Oh my gosh. One very powerful mindset is knowing that whatever job you're doing is already training you for your next thing. So for example, when I was bartending, I was already studying healing, and I was starting to feel really bad because I was feeling that I was so disconnected from my soul. And I was bartending. I wanted to be doing sessions. One way of looking at it is, okay, the bartending is training me to protect my energy, to have better communication skills, to learn how to balance my emotions. So everything that I was doing in that job was training me for becoming the healer that I am today and continue to grow being. Right. So sometimes people give up because they don't see immediate success on the thing that they're trying. But that's okay, because whatever you're doing, you are gaining skills. You are connecting more to your authenticity. And like I said, failure is kind of certain. It will happen. So if we just decide to do something and then we don't see results right away, and then we step out, then we're not listening to the whisper. We're not listening to the calling. Going into the path with the mindset that it is already a success. Me taking this step, I'm already succeeding. I'm already on my path, however it looks like. And then continue to find solutions. Never looking at something that didn't work, thinking that it has anything to do with their worthiness. So let's say someone goes out there and they launch a course and they invested everything in it, and they pour their heart into it, and then the course doesn't sell. It's crushing, right? We can all understand that it has definitely happened to me. And it can crush you. But then if you look at it and say, okay, this didn't quite work. So what did I learn from it?
Absolutely.
What were the actions that I didn't take that I can take next time?
Right.
Do I need a new mentor? Do I need more support? Do I need a team? What new skills do I need? How can I move this? So it's kind of seeing as, okay, what's next? What's my next step?
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Because as you were sharing initially about not giving up after something failing, that if we all gave up like that, none of us would be walking. If we think about how many times did we fall down and fail the first time we tried to take a step, and we didn't give up. We didn't get discouraged. We just kept trying. I remember that with tying my shoes, and just over and over, I would have my dad show me again, so that I could learn to tie my own shoes, because I didn't want anyone else tying them. I wanted to tie my own shoes. But if we gave up the first time, none of us would be walking. We would still,
exactly. And that is the perfect example. Imagine you don't see the 1-year-old going, oh, I'm not good enough to walk. They know they will be walking.
Exactly.
They don't sit and give up.
Exactly. It's such a simple analogy, but it's so true, because we don't have all of the societal restrictions that wind up being attached to, oh, if this doesn't happen, then no, it's a lesson. It's not a mistake or a failure. It is a lesson. The only time you fail is when you stop trying.
100%.
Right?
100%. Yes. And seeing those as you're learning, right? We don't learn how to walk in one step. We fall many times. And that is what the process is. We're not failing. We're learning. We're learning. We're becoming. We're awakening our skills. So those steps are important. And the more connected to our why we are, the better, right? And not attaching anything to our worthiness, but knowing that it's all happening for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So talk a little bit about, how do you feel and believe that you have grown and expanded and changed because you stayed true to your calling versus succumbing and staying a bartender, for example, and doing voiceover work on the side?
Right. Well, now I just feel a massive shift in my feminine energy. When I was in Los Angeles, I was so much in the hustling world, hustling mentality. I had to survive there. So everything was all my decisions were based on survival. That itself disconnects us from our soul, because we need to feel safe and surrender so that we can even listen to our intuition. So being there in my masculine energy and feeling disconnected from this part was a massive shift that I felt, because once I said, okay, you know what, maybe there's a different way. Maybe there's a different way of doing things. And taking that leap, it's not that, oh, now everything is easy, but it's more like I now get to feel surrender, that I can surrender regardless of the situation. So my levels of inner peace are way higher. My levels of happiness are way higher. And it's not because things are okay all the time. It's because when I hit the obstacle, I know there's a root cause. I know it's happening for me. I know that there is a reflection there that I need to look within so that I can continue to create other things. So it's the perspective, right, that shifted everything. So all the levels of the things that make us feel good are completely different.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. 100%, 1,000%.
I like to say that that's what I do in my work, right? I help people go from those frequencies of living a life around fear, depression, anger, sadness, guilt, and help them move to love, joy, inner peace, just with like changing the perspective over how what things are happening in their life.
Yes. And that triggered another memory of something I learned from you, which initially, and it literally a light bulb came on the other day when I realized it was like after you hear something and try to comprehend it, and you may have to ask your higher self, God, source, to help you understand or integrate that. And it was the explanation around reflections. And that has now become a part of my normal day to day, because I'll recognize it in myself if something is happening a certain way, and in others at times that are close to me. It's such a powerful thing. Maybe you want to share a little bit about that, the reflections and how that works.
Reflections are such a powerful way of knowing everything that is in our subconscious mind, ready to be released and reprogrammed. When we start to look at everyone as a mirror of something that is like a limiting belief in our subconscious mind, an old wound that's ready to be healed, that is where we get the key to what we need to work on ourselves next. Right. So instead of seeing them as toxic or blame them or getting triggered and walking away, if we can look at someone and see, okay, they made me feel this thing. They made me feel rejected, or they made me feel like they were criticizing me. Where have I been rejecting myself? Where am I not fully committing to myself in some area of my life? Where have I been criticizing myself? And when we see them as a reflection and we work on those things in ourselves, then we shift our alignment, right? Because when we start committing to ourselves, then we start to align with people that are going to commit to us versus meeting people that are going to reject us. Right. So it's like magic. Reflections are so powerful.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So so many wise things that you have picked up because of your focus on this area and your gifts that you have that are so evident. So as people are thinking about blazing a trail, perhaps, and, looking at you as an example and stepping out the way you did, myself, I did in 2015, walked away from the ad agency that I was with in New York City. And I was totally not happy, knew I was not in my element, asking myself, when is my sentence going to be up? I was making lots of money, but not fulfilled in the other parts of life that are, honestly, in my opinion, more important than the money. So anyway, talk a little bit about how do people overcome that? If they're feeling a desire to blaze another trail and to just start that process, where would you tell them to start? And what advice would you have?
So good. So good. The first thing is making space for our fears and everything that we are feeling. We never want to bypass how we feel. We want to acknowledge everything that's coming up. And then we want to disprove those thoughts, because the fears, they're not true, right? They're just programmings. They're things that are not going to happen. And if we just listen, if we take a moment, write down the fears, okay, what's the worst that could happen? And then start writing it down and then disproving them one by one. Like, okay, if this happens, then what would I do? And kind of bringing the human self part of it, like accommodating those feelings, right? And disproving them and being okay with however it unfolds. And then connecting to the intuition to make sure that we are not like trying to walk away because we want to run away from something that is teaching us a beautiful lesson. Like we want to understand what the reflections we were getting in that place first, so the problem doesn't follow us in the next place that we go to.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. It's not just walking out. Like we need to also make peace with the things that are happening in the moment and coming into full acceptance with the moment. Also quantum leaps to the next phase, because if we resist, if we want to walk out because we want to run away because we are not accepting of the current reality, then we create resistance and then it persists, right? But if we come to terms with loving where we're at, seeing what it's teaching us, seeing the positives, seeing the reflections, and being at peace and saying, okay, I've gotten the lessons here, but now without the emotions, my intuition is leading me to the next place. And then you're more neutral and more certain, more confident into making that step, because you know you're not running away. You're not doing anything impulsive. You're just following your intuition. Right. And also learning how we create our reality to start writing down what we choose to experience from life. That is huge, because a good life for me might mean a different thing of a good life for you. Everyone has their own vision of what a good life is. So understanding, like getting clarity, and even if we don't know what's coming next, we can still get clear on how we choose to feel.
Right. Absolutely. And what we see our life entailing, because I've realized so much the power of words, the power of writing and scripting our life, even in the past tense, as though it's already happened. Once you do get clear, first, as you're saying, is get clear on those things that really inspire you, or that you lose track of time when you're doing that, or you would do it if no one even paid you, you would still be that committed to do that because you believe in it that much. And then,
100%.
Right. And then being careful what we say, because saying things in an affirmative, this is another one of the things that you epitomize and show through your, I'll be putting the links to all of your Instagram and everything below so that people can follow you. You just give so much away through sharing your wisdom with others. But what I was going to say is our affirmative words around what we are creating, and being careful of whatever we say, we're calling into existence in some way. And it's either empowering or disempowering, right?
Yes. And you said something so key here, which is that we could be doing that forever. Like the thing that we love, we could be doing forever.
Yes.
And this is so powerful because we don't want to retire, right? That's not the goal, which is amazing that you get to teach now people how to leave the 9 to 5 and teach them to have a life that they actually want to be active forever, right? Like they don't need to ever feel like, okay, now I get to retire, because that's when we stop growing and we kind of start dying, right? If we aren't growing, we start dying. So we want to be connected to something that we want to do forever.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And it's so powerful that you get to teach that, people to have that. So I love that.
And it's to your point of saying you have to know what you don't want to know what you do want. And living as long as we do, and our lifespan is fairly long, and doing things that we love is really important, and it's possible. That's the other thing that I am hoping that people can realize through listening to us talk and hearing how doing what you love is possible. It just takes taking that first step and being aware of the fact that you're not necessarily perhaps doing what you were meant to be doing with your energy and your time. And when people start waking up and realize I'm really not fulfilled and happy doing what I'm doing, just taking that first step, making the decision and then taking the first step. And I would say slow motion is better than no motion. As long as you're going in the right direction, that's the most important thing. Just get started.
Yes.
Right.
And it's the freedom that comes from taking that step. It's already so fulfilling, right?
Yes.
The comfort zone is tricky because we think we're happier when we're in a comfort zone. But I love that. Have you seen that meme with the lion? It's like the lion in a cage, and then he has everything. They bring him water, they bring him meat, but he's in a cage. Of course, he's not happy. He's not in his natural wild habitat. But he has everything, right? So he should be happy. No, that's the same thing for us. So the comfort zone can be very tricky because it looks good on paper, but it's killing the soul. We're not meant to just settle, feel comfortable, and bypass our soul callings. And even when things are messy and chaotic, when you are following that, like the freedom brings you so much joy. So it's already worth it. From the moment we decide, it's already worth it.
Yes, exactly. And it's that saying, once you get out of your comfort zone, you realize it wasn't all that comfortable to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure people know how to get in touch with you. So your website is?
expandintopossibility.com.
Perfect.
Or my Instagram, Julie Mullins _.
Yes. So I will link those below and make sure that they are there. And you offer all kinds of courses and one-on-one sessions. So once people get connected with you and can, just get connected, there's a wealth of support that is available. And as I said at the very beginning, you are the most pure, energetic connector to source that I've ever met in my life. And I can't say enough about your abilities and your gifts to the world. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on this show.
Thank you so much, Lou Ray. It's an honor to be here to connect with you. I love you so much.
Same to you.
Mwah.
And that's a wrap on another episode of And Then I Did This, celebrating the lives of those who've walked away from the beaten path to pursue work and a life that nourishes their soul. If you're feeling inspired and ready to explore your own path to freedom, check out youcanbefree.life, where you'll find resources and support to help you break free and live life on your own terms. See you next time.